So I've changed the way I sharpen. I want to show you some steps that if you're a sharpener and you've been following the way I do my YouTubes, that might make it a little faster and easier and repeatable. As I said, you want to experiment, and there's nothing wrong with experimenting. My background is science, and when you have an experiment, you want your control group and your experiment group so you can compare. And I find a lot of times when I try something new, my old way of doing it is actually better. There were some things of that yesterday. So Ricky and I had a great time. Ricky is my part-time teenage sharpener, and he comes in after high school and does some sharpening for me in the afternoon. And I'd been noticing some of the things. He's a good sharpener, but some of the edges were a little rougher than I liked when I was looking at them. And there were some things that he was doing that we had to actually prove with the microscope, the differences in them. And it was a combination of technique and equipment. And so I'm going to go over some of those things that we found in our experiment and comparing things. And I'll be working through that as I sharpen these shears. And I'll be showing you the changes I have, like 1, 2, really just 3 changes on this. But it's not anything revolutionary. I want to give some kudos to Todd Binko, who's now started his own YouTube channel. He's in Canada, and he's someone that I trained, and he's one that likes to experiment and try different things. And I tried some of his ideas. I wanted to only add things that did not add extra time and did not add extra tools, but actually improve the edge on the shears. And I think I've done that. So let's take a look at these shears I'm going to sharpen. Robin DeMarchi. Here's some video footage of her at a hair show. She's an amazing cutter. I have several videos by her on my other channel called Love to Cut. And she's an amazing cutter. She uses Bonika shears, and she's really hard on her shears. She is, when I talk about the eagle, lion, and gorilla cutters, I'll try to reference that video at the end, but she is a lion. She's very brave. She tries out new things. She has a lot of shears. This is the one I think I'm going to do. This is her twister or swivel thumb, and this is one of our older ones. Yeah, this one's quite old because we have changed a lot. This one here is actually a cast shear. So if it's out of alignment, if there's some problems with it, I cannot bend it. If the tips don't come together, I cannot bend the handles. How do I know that? Because we made it. I know that. One of the clues, and let me get you, almost cut you see, that's the only time I cut myself is when I do something stupid, like put my finger between the shears when I close them. I never cut myself when I'm sharpening. It's just if I'm talking like I am now, and I just stick my finger between the blades. But fortunately, it's not that sharp, so that kind of took care of that problem. So here's my recipe, my step-by-step, and this shear has a crisp ledge there. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Do you see that crisp ledge as opposed to this one has a ledge, but it sort of slants down. This one has like a very, very crisp ledge. This shear here also has that same crisp ledge. This one is a cast shear. I've never have been, a lot of people feel like cast shears are inferior. I've never felt that. Cast shears in general, they will break rather than bend. So you're limited in how you can fix them. But usually they keep their alignment pretty good, so you don't have to fix them. I've had pretty good luck with cast shears being lasting for years and years and years. And this particular one, I think we can get it back into shape. She said that she felt like maybe it's time to retire it, that it's old. This one could easily be 15 years old or maybe older. I'd have to look and see when we changed factories in making this. And the main reason we changed factories is because this is a cast shear. And sharpeners, they don't like cast shears because they like to put them on the alignment bar and hammer them and bend them and all of those kind of things. I'm not one of those sharpeners, but it does limit you as the shear gets older. So first of all, we're going to do T.E.S.T. This T.E.S.T is the new thing I do. It's something I added. It's not anything different. It's just an easier way to remember what we want to look at with a shear. So the T in T.E.S.T is what type of shear is it? And we know it's cast. We know it's a swivel thumb. We know it's a Bonika. If you get one of these and you're not sure, and it's a Bonika and you're not sure if it's cast or forged, call us and we'll tell you. And usually if you say, hey, the only way I can fix it is to change the set or the alignment on it, and we'll indemnify you. If we say, yeah, go ahead. If you break it, we'll replace it. But call us first. So what type of shear is it? It's a swivel thumb. It's a cast shear. It's a medium price shear. It's not the high end. It's not a low end. It's a medium price shear. That's the T. She uses it for slide cutting, so that would also go along with the type. Edge. E stands for edge. What type of edge is it? This is a convex edge, and it's good to kind of look at it and see. This has been sharpened many times in the past. I've sharpened it, but it's been sharpened at hair shows by other sharpeners that work for me. Robin at one time, her husband, ex-husband, became a sharpener, and he was doing some of her sharpening. So this may have been sharpened by 4 or 5 different people over the years. I'm going to take a closer look at it and see what the Rideline looks like. This is my Megowan. Yeah, you see that Rideline is pretty much gone there. You can see it a little bit at the tip. And what we're talking about, for those of you that are kicking the tires, so to speak, about the sharpening business, Rideline should be a little shiny line that comes down and makes a backwards J. It should not be up the back. So we're looking at the edge. It's fairly sharp. It's not too bad. The S, you might think is the steel, what kind of steel it is. Frankly, I don't do a lot of difference between the different steels. I know some people do. It's good to kind of know what it is, but you really can't even tell by what the shear says. You maybe kind of guess how good the steel is when you start sharpening, or if you know brands, but the S actually stands for the screw. Can the screw be adjusted? Can the screw hold its edge? And along with the screw, I kind of include all the hardware. So I'll look and see if this finger rest needs a little bit of glue on it. And I think it probably does. I know she doesn't take her finger rest out. It could use another washer. But I'm going to put a drop of glue on it. I like nail glue. But I can't get it open. So I think her washer's just not going to, her finger rest just not going to get glued in. I can't open it. Maybe when Ricky comes in, I'll get him to put some glue on it. Oh, man, that young man's got some strength in his hands. I'm going to check the little swivel here, make sure that's in good shape. We do sell these little rubber donuts. You might want to do a little Loctite, or we sell this Vibratight stuff to hold the screw so it stays in place. But that's in good shape. Kind of check the bumper, is it there? So the S incorporates not just the screw but all the hardware. And then the last T, because there's two T's in here, the last T stands for testing. So I want to actually cut with them and see what's going on. So this is a piece of really thin toilet tissue, and I'm pulling my thumb out, and it doesn't cut bad dry. Let's see how it cuts hair. She's not happy with these at all, but she's one of these really picky people. See, it cuts hair pretty decently. So most of you would say, well, what's wrong with you? These shears are fine. But they're not for Robin. Let's see if they kind of slide a little bit rough. Can you hear the noise? Look at my mic here. So I'm thinking we're just going to go through the steps, resharpen these shears, and see if they slide a little bit better and they're a little bit smoother. What I'm noticing on these, going back to the edge, is a lot of grind marks at the edge. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You don't even really need the magnifier to see that, but you see how rough that looks at the edge? I think some smoothing and some polishing, which gets into what one of the main things I changed on our steps. So let's take it apart, and as I change steps from my usual sharpening, I'll point them out to you. So I'm going to use the same equipment that people get when they come here for training, except I might add coffee, and that's going to be in me but not in the shears. Well, maybe it gets indirectly into the shears. That's one of the advantages of the clamp, is if you have too much coffee or you have a problem with your hand shaking, which we have some sharpeners who are excellent sharpeners that have, for whatever reason, there's one of her problems. Look at there. Can you see that? That washer just disintegrated. So a new washer is going to help with this. If you notice, the bad washer did not keep the shears from cutting. They actually cut. But, here's my washers. But they're going to be better, more comfortable, and quieter. We sell all these different size washers, and it's good to have an assortment. The numbers on them is the outside diameter and the inside diameter. I think this 6mm one is going to be the right one. But that goes back to the S in the word test. I make sure all these parts that I have them. Because it would be horrible if the screw didn't hold and you went through all the sharpening and then they never cut because the screw didn't hold. So make sure those things are done before you get in too far into the sharpening process. So I'm cleaning these off with 70% isopropyl alcohol. I've discussed on other videos why 70% rather than 90% or 50%. And one of the things we have been using on a few of my videos is a diamond hone, But in our experiments yesterday, the Waterstone was a much better job. Now, a lot of my videos, I'm using the 2000 grit. I'm going to go to the stone that normally when people come in for training or get our equipment will buy, which is the Kitayama stone. You see the line here where we had the burr from yesterday. We want it good and wet. I flattened it recently, actually just before the last shear that we did yesterday. I should have filmed it. Ricky and I were working with it, experimenting. He did one blade, I did the other. And you could see the difference in using the Waterstone or using the diamond stone. The Waterstone, it was a shinier, smoother edge. And even when we got through with the sharpening, it was just a sharper, smoother edge. So it's convinced me that the Japanese Waterstones are the way to go. Now this is 4,000. 2,000 would do. The 1,000, we might have to switch over to that if I can't establish that rod line because we knew it was partly gone. But I'm going to try to do it all on the 4,000. In our experiment yesterday, we did some with the diamond stone, one blade with the diamond and one blade with our 4,000 Kitayama. And I'll try to cut in here so you can see the difference in the rod lines. It was huge. The rod line was so much more scratched up with the diamond. I won't say we'll never use the diamond, sometimes to reestablish a rod line, but it convinced us to use the Japanese Waterstone. So I want this wet. I'm looking for my red marker. This is our Simek edge marker. You don't have to use this, but I like this one because it comes off easy. Now inside this shear, you're going to see like little Japanese writing. I don't know if you can see that in here. And that's from factories that follow which person made that shear. I'm coloring all the way around. Normally I would color here and go along the edge, but I don't know. I colored all the way around today. Maybe it's because that's the way I teach, and I tend to sharpen like I teach. Because now my pressure's over my pivot. I'm getting a pretty decent rod line. I normally wouldn't stop and look at it, but a little bit wider at the tip, but it's probably over years of use a little bit out of alignment. It left a lot of the dark color behind. You'll find different shears will leave a different color swarf in there, and you can there's some ways to sort of guess and tell what kind of metal they are by the color and the darkness of the swarf in here. Yeah, that came out a nice rod line and left the red on the back. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to clean this up so I'll be ready for it later. I guess maybe there's more than 3 things I changed. This is one of the first things I've got on my list beside the test. So one of the things I've changed is, I didn't do a scratch test on my convex edges, just the bevel edges. And in talking to Todd, he was pointing out it's good to maybe do the scratch test, because if you've got to make a major change, it helps you select what grit to start with. So it kind of saves you time. So once again, whatever the scratch test tells you, you don't have to stay with that angle, but it tells you where you're starting. Especially like these shears have been sharpened probably by 5 different people. So I am set on, let's see, 45, which is where I want these, I think, to be 45 when I'm through. And you could turn the machine on, but I'd rather just do it by hand. Yeah, and they were sharpened at 45, so we're good. So I don't need to use any real super aggressive abrasive. Now, what is this one? This is a 2000. This isn't going to do me any good. That's like way too fine. We were doing some experiments with that one. This is a worn 400. On this blue film, it sort of reduces it down, whatever the grit is. I have some that are fresh grit, and you can feel a huge difference in how they feel. But I don't throw them away as they progress down, because not only not only can I continue to use them, but they're going to take kind of like a scratch eraser and shine these up, or maybe not the word shine, but it's going to blend all the scratches that we saw before when we were looking at it with a magnifier. What I'm encouraging people to do now is when they land, airplane landing, get to the edge, just stay there until they develop a burr. And that might be like 3 or 4 seconds. And they're doing, you see a slight rock? See it getting the tip to the back? Ricky yesterday was concerned, isn't that going to make it a bevel? And it didn't, because the next step kind of takes that bevel look out. And it does look kind of bevelly, but we're going to go to, and I haven't got that tippy tip. I see a little bit in the light there. I don't think you would be able to see it, but I see a little bit there. And a little bit more pressure at the tip, but I'm not lifting up. So that was a worn 400. Let's go down to a worn 800 to get it a little bit shinier and smoother and get it ready for our next step. And it might be good to have more than one cushion plate here, but sometimes it's just easier to pull it off than it is to go hunt one. So I'm landing. This time I'm not so much worrying about staying at the edge. Because what I'm trying to accomplish is to get that shinier and smoother. So far, no big changes in the way I sharpen. Now's one of the big changes. Usually at this point, I would go and take the burr off and come back and polish. Nope, I'm going to polish now. This way I can polish all the way to the edge. And I'm not too worried about over rounding the edge, because it's got a burr there to protect it. So I have white compound polish on here, and I have diamond spray. This happens to be 3 micron diamond spray, and the white compound. You could use the 1 micron diamond spray, and the ones I'm using are a little bit more aggressive than what some other people choose to use. The problem is, if you get it too shiny, it can actually be shinier than the handle. See, I'm still seeing a lot of scratches here. I'm going to go up. Maybe a little bit more diamond spray. My little pump bottle. They all seem to have this issue. Oh, now it's going to pump. They're just kind of temperamental. And then a little bit more white polish maybe. Don't overdo this, it gets cakey. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that looks a whole lot better. Let me zoom in here where you can compare the two. Sort of wipe this red off so you can see a little bit better to compare. But you see all the scratches in here, and you see how nicely polished that one is. But because the burr is still here, I haven't rounded over the edge. We'll see how these do. So now I'm on to my next one. That looks good, and we're on to polish. So you see this step here, I don't think it's taking any extra time. And maybe I'm getting a little bit better shine on the blade, and maybe making the edge a little bit smoother for slide cutting. We're going to listen at the sound for the slide cutting when we get through. Yeah, that shines up pretty nice. I think that's good enough. Good enough. Oh, now I'm going to go back to my stone, and I'm pulling my burr off. Make sure this is nice and clean and smooth, free of swarf and debris. Get my spot. And see, it does make more of a mess because of that polish that's there. So make sure your next one and you're just wanting to pull it down because you want this debris to go out, not to scratch up the inside surface of this. Now this was part of our experiment, was what to go back to kiss it to take the outside burr off with. And Ricky and I experimented with a few things, and we found it was still better to go back to the felt pad as we had before. Now I'm going to turn this up with my micro adjuster about maybe 2. I can turn my speed down. Because basically all I want to do is knock off any outside burr. And I don't have to do any rocking. I'm just going to come in here, and that should do it. And that feels smooth, smooth, smooth. Because I've already done my polish. This is just knocking off any outside burr. And I'm not pressing in. I'm just sort of, undoubtedly, when Ricky was doing it, he must be a hard kisser, because I guess I'll have to ask my granddaughter. But you want to do it like a gentle kiss. Butterfly kiss. Sweet, chaste, pure kiss. Like on the Princess Bride movie. Oh, that looks pretty. And it's smooth. I still feel a little bit of roughness on this one. So I can still go to my nail buffer, but it's light. Light nail buffer. And this is just knocking off any burr that might be there. I still feel a roughness. Right there. Is it on the inside or the outside? I think I'll go back and hit my polishing pad again, because that nail buffer didn't quite get it out. Now, I know someone, I was talking to Lois Raposo, and he uses leather on this final step, which might be good. My thought is I didn't want to add additional tools or products or things than what people already have. I think that did it. Just that little bit. Just that little bit. So, I mean, there's always new tools, new gizmos, and new gadgets you can add. Always, like I said, experiment with it. It may find that what you've been doing is better than what the new trend is. I feel a little teeny tiny nick that we didn't get out right there. Let's see if it's on this side. It's not on that side. So usually if the nick is teeny tiny and it's only on one side, they're not going to feel it. If you were doing a sharpening certification, yep, you better go back and get that nick out. If you're doing it for the ISSA, coffee time, I would get that nick out. So we've got our washer already on here. Now this is one that the peg is round. So I always say about the square peg goes in the round hole. Both holes are round, but it's easy to tell which is which because this has the little hole for the external clicker plate. We've had to make up names for these, and my new book will have a glossary with some of my made-up names. And this one I call an external clicker plate because it sits on top of the shear rather than into a well. So I've tightened it up. And maybe rather than cutting a paper towel, because I'm pretty sure I've got all the burrs out. I think just cutting the tissue, and I'm cutting, is going to be enough, a protection of the one blade against the other. Interestingly enough, I don't feel that nick. Double checking the tip. Does it come together? Sometimes you might need to do a magnifier to make sure it does meet. Because it needs to not just meet, but actually cross over enough to cut. These look so much better than what they did. All right, tighten my screw, Bonnie. When I think I've got it tight enough, wiggle it. Let's see how it cuts wet. Now, I cut good before, remember? Our big test is we're going to slice through the hair and see if it's quieter and smoother. So it definitely cuts wet, but it was cutting good before. I'm going to clip my microphone to the hair. And I'm going to slide through here. I still hear a little bit of noise. I think it's quieter. The sliding, not necessarily, but definitely the cut. I'm right here at the microphone. I'm going to send these back to Robin, and I'm going to ask her to put a comment below of how they are. Robin, interestingly enough, and I've talked about her earlier on this video, actually came for sharpening training, and she's learned how to sharpen shears. Like I said, her husband was a sharpener, her ex-husband, and so she understands about what goes into sharpening. And I want her to see if these new procedures have improved. Now, as I said, they cut fine before, but I think they're much better now. They definitely feel smoother, and I think she's going to be happy with them. They're going to have a little bit more life to them. Hey, I'm Bonnie Megowan, and this is what I do. About every Monday, I'll be uploading a new video. So if you want to see them and catch them, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you have any comments or suggestions of some videos you'd like to see, make sure you let me know. I answer all the comments. Now, if you're looking for the tools that I used in this video and the different things that I used, those should be in links below or on the product page, or if not, you should find them on my website, bonika.com. There's all kinds of things in the description below on how you can connect and contact me. So stay sharp. I'll see you in the next video.